I didn't know rejection could echo for years. But every time someone laughed a little too loud behind me, every time an alpha's gaze slid past me like I wasn't worth stopping for, every time my wolf curled inward instead of lifting its head, I heard Brad's voice again. Public. You're unworthy. The memory hits me even now, years later, while I sit across from him in a glass-walled conference room that overlooks half the city. Brad Loron. Alpha. Billionaire darling of the business world. And the man who once crushed me in front of everyone I knew. He looks different now. Older. Sharper. More tired. His tailored charcoal suit fits perfectly, but there's something wrong with the way he holds himself, like his spine is rigid not from confidence, but pain. His eyes, once bright with arrogant certainty, look dulled. Restless. Sick. My wolf notices before my mind does. It stirs uneasily, pressing against my ribs. Not attraction. Not comfort. Recognition. I hate it. I fold my hands in my lap so he won't see them shake. You didn't have to come, Brad says, voice smooth but strained. My assistant could have. You asked for me, I interrupt quietly. His jaw tightens. Yes. The silence stretches. The hum of the building feels louder than it should. I glance at the table between us. A single black folder sits there. Thick, heavy, deliberate. A contract. I almost laugh. 5 years ago, this same man wouldn't even look at me. Now he can't stop. Back then I was 20. Hopeful. Stupid enough to think sincerity mattered more than status. The memory comes uninvited. A charity gala hosted by Brad's company. Crystal lights. Expensive suits. Alphas everywhere. I'd been invited as a junior designer, and Omega lucky enough to get a foot in the door. Brad had been standing at the center of it all, tall, magnetic, devastatingly confident. I'd loved him quietly for months. Not in the obsessive way people warn you about. Just enough to hope. I still remember how my heart pounded when I stepped toward him, how my wolf lifted its head for the first time in years. I hadn't planned to confess. But someone pushed. Someone laughed. Someone said, "He's been staring at you all night." Brad turned. Everyone watched. And I opened my mouth. I like you, I said, voice trembling but honest. I know I'm just an Omega, but... He laughed. Not loudly. Not cruelly. But enough. Enough to silence the room. Then he said it, casual, dismissive, effortless. You're unworthy. Not dramatic. Not angry. Just final. I don't date Omegas like you, he added, eyes already sliding away. Don't embarrass yourself again. People laughed after that. Not everyone. But enough. I left before the tears fell. I never worked in that company again. Why now? I ask, dragging myself back to the present. Brad leans back in his chair, fingers steepled. The movement is practiced, but his scent betrays him. Frustration. Alpha pheromones don't lie. Because, he says slowly, you're the only Omega whose compatibility matches mine. My lips press together. That's not an answer. His eyes flicker, just once. My wolf is dying. The words land heavier than I expect. I don't respond immediately. I study him instead. The faint shadows under his eyes. The tension in his shoulders. The way his breathing is slightly off, like he's constantly fighting something internal. An alpha's wolf doesn't just die. It withers. It rejects. It eats them alive from the inside. And you think marriage will fix that? I ask. I know it will. My stomach twists. 3 years, he continues, reaching for the folder and sliding it toward me. A legal contract. Public marriage. No physical requirements unless mutually agreed. I almost scoff. How generous. You'll be compensated, he adds. More than fairly. I don't touch the folder. Is this why you called me? I ask softly. Because no Omega of your status would accept you? That hits. His jaw clenches hard. They won't, he admits. They sense weakness. And I don't. He meets my gaze then. Holds it. You always did, he says quietly. But you came anyway. My chest tightens painfully. That wasn't courage. That was hope. I stand abruptly, chair scraping against the floor. I didn't come here to save you, I say. And I didn't come here to forgive you. I'm not asking for forgiveness. No, I agree. You're asking for survival. Silence again. Then quietly. Yes. I turn toward the window, staring out at the city. All those lights, all that power. All those years I spent rebuilding myself while he climbed higher. You know what's funny? I say. I used to imagine you begging. He exhales slowly. I'm not begging. No, I correct. You're offering me control. I turn back to him. And I'm considering it. His eyes darken. Why? He asks. The honest answer burns on my tongue. Because I want to see you break. Because I want you to feel small. Because I want to know what it's like to be the one holding the knife. But I don't say that. I reach for the folder instead. Open it. Scan the pages. Everything is airtight. Brutally professional. At the last page, my name is already typed neatly at the bottom. Waiting. My wolf shifts again, uneasy, restless, aware of something my mind refuses to acknowledge. Brad stands, slowly. He doesn't come closer. Doesn't touch me. But his presence presses in anyway. If you sign, he says, voice low, there's no turning back. I pick up the pen. My hand trembles. Not because I love him. Not because I forgive him. But because some part of me, the part that never healed properly, knows this will change everything. I sign. The pen scratches loudly in the quiet room. Done. Brad exhales like he's been holding his breath for years. I close the folder and slide it back toward him. 3 years, I say. You get your survival. And you, he asks. I meet his gaze, my smile thin and sharp. I get to watch you suffer. Something flickers in his eyes. Not anger. Not relief. Something dangerously close to regret. And as I walk out of the room, my wolf presses harder against my chest. Reacting. To him. Whether I want it to or not. The contract didn't mention the scent. That was the first thing I noticed when I stepped into the penthouse he apparently already considered ours. Brad's scent hit me the moment the elevator doors slid open, deep, sharp, unmistakably alpha. It filled the space like he'd been living there for years, like his presence had soaked into the walls and furniture and air itself. My wolf recoiled. Then, traitorously, leaned forward. I clenched my jaw and forced my feet to move. The penthouse was enormous. Floor-to-ceiling windows. Neutral tones. Clean lines. Nothing personal. Nothing warm. Nothing that looked like a place someone lived in. It's temporary, Brad said behind me, reading my silence wrong. Until the press dies down. I don't care, I replied. And I meant it. I didn't come here to be impressed. He nodded once, like he expected that answer. My suitcase sat by the door where his assistant must have brought it earlier. I hadn't even noticed. That should have unsettled me more than it did. I walked deeper into the apartment, each step heavier than the last. My chest felt tight, my skin buzzing faintly like static. The bond. Not a bond. Just biology. That's what I told myself. Brad removed his jacket slowly, carefully, like even the movement cost him something. His shoulders stiffened for a second before he masked it. I turned before I could stop myself. You're hurting. His eyes snapped to mine. I'm fine. Don't lie to me, I said flatly. We're married on paper now. You don't gain anything by pretending. His lips pressed into a thin line. Then he exhaled. Sit, he said. Not an order. A request. I didn't sit. I'm not your omega, I reminded him. No, he agreed. You're my solution. The words should have made me angry. Instead, they made my chest ache. He moved toward the kitchen, poured a glass of water, and took medication from a small container I hadn't noticed before. His hand shook slightly as he swallowed. How bad is it? I asked quietly. He leaned against the counter afterward, head tipped back for a moment. When he opened his eyes again, the arrogance I remembered was gone. Some days, he admitted, it feels like my wolf is tearing itself apart. I didn't reply. I didn't trust myself to. Because some part of me, small, unwanted, still wounded, felt satisfaction at the thought. Let him feel it. You'll have your own room, he continued, pushing himself upright. Nothing changes unless you want it to. I laughed softly. You rejected me in public, I said. And now you're afraid to share a bed with me? Something sharp crossed his face. I'm afraid, he said quietly, of what I don't deserve. The words followed me long after he left me standing there. That night, sleep didn't come easily. The room he gave me was too quiet, too large, too unfamiliar. The sheets smelled faintly of detergent, and underneath that, Brad. My wolf paced restlessly inside me. I pressed my face into the pillow and cursed under my breath. This is stupid, I whispered to no one. You're just stressed. But the truth was crueler. My body was aware of him in the apartment. Aware when he moved. Aware when he stopped. Aware when pain twisted his scent sharper, darker. Sometime after midnight, I gave up on sleep and padded barefoot into the kitchen. The lights were dim. Brad sat at the counter, sleeves rolled up, laptop open but untouched. He looked smaller somehow. Less like a sea. More like a man losing a battle he didn't know how to fight. He noticed me instantly. You shouldn't be awake, he said. So shouldn't you? He closed the laptop. Silence stretched. I leaned against the opposite counter, folding my arms. This isn't going how you planned, I said. No, he agreed. It's worse. Good. He looked at me then. Really looked. You hate me, he said. Yes. And yet you signed. I didn't answer. Because the truth, that I wanted power over him, that I wanted him to need me, felt too raw to say aloud. I was wrong, he said suddenly. The words startled me. I stilled. About you, he clarified. About that night. My heartbeat thudded painfully in my ears. I don't need apologies, I said quickly. I need distance. I know. He paused. But you'll hear it anyway. He stood, slowly, like standing hurt. When I rejected you, he said, voice low, I was afraid. I frowned. Afraid of what? Of wanting someone I couldn't control. The admission sat heavy between us. I had everything, he continued. Power, respect, certainty. And you looked at me like I was just a man. My throat tightened. You laughed, I whispered. His jaw clenched. I know. The silence that followed was thick, suffocating. I'm not here to heal you, I said finally. I know. I'm not here to love you. I know. I pushed off the counter, moving past him toward the hallway. But his scent shifted suddenly, sharp, desperate. Then why do you react every time you're near me? My steps faltered. Damn it. I turned slowly. That's not. Your pupils dilate, he said quietly. Your breathing changes. Your wolf stirs. I stared at him, furious. Stop watching me. I can't. The honesty in his voice knocked the air from my lungs. You don't get to want me now, I said. Not after what you did. I don't want you now, he replied. I laughed bitterly. Liar. He shook his head. I've wanted you since the night I told myself I shouldn't. The words hit like a bruise. My wolf surged forward, desperate and angry all at once. I stepped closer before I could stop myself. That doesn't fix anything, I whispered. No, he said, voice rough. But it explains why this hurts so much. The space between us felt electric. Dangerous. I forced myself back. This changes nothing, I said firmly. We stick to the contract. Yes, he agreed. But his eyes said otherwise. As I turned away, my wolf howled softly in my chest, confused, aching, aware that revenge wasn't going to be as clean as I'd imagined. And behind me, Brad didn't follow. But I felt his gaze long after I closed my bedroom door. The first public appearance was scheduled 3 days after I moved in. 3 days of pretending the penthouse wasn't slowly becoming a pressure cooker. 3 days of learning Brad's rhythms, how he drank his coffee black and untouched when the pain was bad, how he stood too still when meetings ran long, how his wolf pressed restlessly against mine every time we passed too close in the hallway. We didn't touch. Not once. And somehow, that made everything worse. The press conference was supposed to be simple. A charity acquisition. A public rebranding. Proof that the Alpha CEO was thriving. I stood beside him on the stage, lights blinding, cameras flashing, my hand resting lightly on his forearm like I'd practiced in the mirror. My wolf didn't like the crowd. Too many alphas. Too many scents. Brad noticed instantly. His fingers curled subtly, just enough to anchor me. Not possessive. Not claiming. Steady. I hated how grounding it felt. He leaned toward the microphone, voice calm, confident, the same voice that once dismissed me like nothing. But now, there was strain underneath. I'm proud to introduce my spouse, he said smoothly. Someone who's supported me through a difficult transition. Supported. The word tasted strange. My smile stayed fixed. The questions came fast. How long have you been married? Was this planned? Is this related to the recent rumors about your health? Brad's grip tightened. I felt the tremor before I saw it. Next question, he said sharply. A reporter laughed nervously. Mr. Lorne, is it true you're wolf? Brad's breath hitched. Just slightly. But I felt it. The bond. No, biology. Flared hot in my chest, a sharp instinctive response that made my wolf surge forward protectively. I spoke before I thought. My husband's health is not a topic for speculation, I said evenly. We appreciate your concern. The room stilled. Brad turned to look at me. Not the polite glance he'd practiced. A real one. Unguarded. Grateful. The conference ended shortly after. Back in the car, the silence was thick. You didn't have to do that, he said quietly. Yes, I replied. I did. He studied me. Why? I looked out the window, watching the city blur past. Because, I said, I won't let anyone humiliate me again. Even through you. He flinched. That night was worse. The pain hit him hard. I woke to the sound of glass shattering. My heart slammed as I bolted upright, instinct screaming. I didn't bother putting on shoes as I ran down the hallway. Brad was on his knees in the kitchen, one hand gripping the counter, the other clenched against his chest. Broken glass glittered across the floor. His scent was wrong. Jagged. Panicked. Brad, I breathed. He didn't respond. His breathing was shallow, uneven, his jaw clenched like he was holding back a scream. I knelt in front of him without thinking, ignoring the glass cutting into my skin. Look at me, I said urgently. His eyes lifted. Silver flecked. Feral. His wolf was close to the surface. Too close. I'm losing control, he whispered hoarsely. The sound of it, an alpha admitting that, made my chest tighten painfully. You're not, I said, even as my wolf pressed forward instinctively. You're here. You're with me. I don't deserve you here, he rasped. I'm not here for you, I snapped. I'm here because if you lose control, we both suffer. It wasn't entirely a lie. I reached out slowly, deliberately, letting him see every movement. He didn't pull away. Didn't growl. That alone told me how bad it was. I placed my hand over his, warm, shaking, too tense. The contact sent a jolt through me. Not desire. Stability. His breathing stuttered. Don't, he whispered. I'm not marking you, I said tightly. I'm grounding you. My wolf pressed against his through the thin barrier of skin and scent, a silent communication that had nothing to do with romance. Slowly, painfully, his breathing evened out. The silver faded from his eyes. His head dropped forward until his forehead rested against my shoulder. The weight of him startled me. Not physically, emotionally. He trusted me. That was worse than hate. I thought watching you suffer would feel better, I whispered without meaning to. He didn't lift his head. I know. The simplicity of the answer broke something open in my chest. You don't fight it, I said hoarsely. You just let it happen. I don't want to hurt you, he murmured. You already did, I said. He nodded faintly. I know. Silence wrapped around us. His grip on my hand loosened. I should have pulled away. I didn't. When he finally lifted his head, his eyes were glassy, exhausted, stripped bare. Why are you still here? He asked quietly. I didn't have a clean answer. Because revenge was slipping through my fingers. Because his suffering hurt more than I expected. Because my wolf refused to see him as an enemy anymore. I signed a contract, I said instead. A faint, humorless smile touched his lips. You always were honest. I scoffed. You didn't appreciate it. No, he admitted. I was afraid of it. I stood slowly, pulling my hand free. Clean this up, I said, gesturing to the glass. I'll get the first aid kit. He nodded. Not like a CEO. Like a man who'd almost shattered. As I walked away, my wolf curled tightly inside me, confused and aching. This wasn't how it was supposed to go. I was supposed to feel powerful. Instead, I felt responsible. And somewhere deep down, I realized the worst part. Watching Brad break wasn't satisfying. It was terrifying. Because if he fell apart completely, I wasn't sure I could walk away anymore. After that night, everything changed. Not dramatically. Not all at once. But subtly, like a crack spreading beneath glass. Brad stopped pretending his pain didn't exist. He adjusted his schedule. Canceled late meetings. Let his assistant know when his wolf was unstable. And, most disturbingly of all, he stopped hiding it from me. I noticed the small things. The way he paused before standing, breath shallow. The way he braced himself against walls when he thought I wasn't looking. The way his scent shifted whenever I entered a room. Less sharp, less guarded. Less alpha. I hated how aware of it I was. We started having breakfast together, not intentionally. Just quiet coincidences that happened too often to be accidental. We didn't talk much. Sometimes not at all. But the silence felt different now. Heavy. Loaded. Honest. One morning, I caught him watching me stir sugar into my coffee. What? I asked sharply. He looked away immediately. Nothing. You're doing it again. Doing what? Looking at me like you're waiting for permission to breathe. He swallowed. I don't want to cross a line. I laughed quietly. You already crossed it years ago. He nodded. I know. The way he said it, soft, steady, without excuse, made my chest ache in a way revenge never had. The turning point came a week later. We were invited to a board dinner. Mandatory, public, brutal. The kind of room where power sat heavy and omegas were tolerated at best. Brad warned me before we went. They don't know about my wolf, he said. But they suspect. And you want me there as proof of stability, I replied. Yes. I adjusted my cufflinks calmly. Then I'm not standing behind you. He looked up sharply. I stand beside you, I continued. Or I don't go. The silence stretched. Then, slowly he nodded. Beside me. The dinner was hell. The room smelled like dominance and judgment. Alphas with sharpened smiles. Omegas with eyes trained to the floor. I felt every gaze slide over me, measuring, dismissive, curious. And Brad felt it too. His wolf stirred, restless, aggressive. Halfway through the evening, one of the board members leaned forward. So, he said lightly, is the marriage therapeutic? The word was deliberate. True. Brad's jaw tightened. I answered before he could. My husband's health is not a strategy, I said evenly. And I'm not an accessory. A few murmurs rippled through the table. The man chuckled. Spoken like an omega who doesn't understand his place. I stood. The chair scraped loudly. You rejected me once, I said calmly, meeting his gaze. And I survived. So if you think I'll sit quietly while you insult me. Sit down, Brad said sharply. I froze. Anger flared. Then he stood too. Not beside me. In front of me. You don't get to speak to him like that, Brad said, voice low and lethal. Not now. Not ever. The room went dead silent. His wolf surged. I felt it, hot, furious, protective. Brad was shaking. I reached out and placed my hand lightly on his back. Just enough. His breathing steadied. "This meeting is over," he said. "Anyone who has a problem with my marriage can take it up with me directly." We left. Together. In the car, his hands were clenched white around the steering wheel. "You shouldn't have done that," I said quietly. "I should have done it years ago," he replied. That was the moment something inside me finally cracked. That night, the pain took him again. Worse than before. He collapsed in the bedroom this time. His bedroom, not mine. I found him on the floor, sweat soaking his shirt, breaths ragged and uneven. I knelt beside him, heart pounding. "Brad," I said softly. "Look at me." His eyes were unfocused. "I don't want to hurt you," he whispered. "You won't." My hand found his shoulder. Then his chest. The contact sent a surge through both of us. Sharp, grounding, terrifying. He grabbed my wrist instinctively, then released it like he'd been burned. "I'm sorry," he gasped. I didn't pull away. Instead, I sat on the floor and pulled him carefully against me, his head resting against my chest. His weight was heavy. Vulnerable. My wolf curled around his instinctively. Not claiming. Protecting. "I used to imagine this," I whispered. "Me like this?" he murmured faintly. "No," I said honestly. "You begging." A broken sound left his throat. Not laughter. Something worse. "I would," he said quietly. "If you asked." My chest tightened painfully. "I don't want that anymore." He stilled. "What do you want?" The truth rose before I could stop it. "I want you to live." His fingers tightened in my shirt. "You don't owe me that." "I know." Silence wrapped around us. "I don't forgive you," I added softly. "I know. But I don't want to watch you die either." He closed his eyes. And for the first time since I signed that contract, I realized something terrifying. I wasn't staying to hurt him anymore. I was staying because losing him would hurt me. We stayed like that until the pain passed. Until his breathing evened. Until exhaustion dragged him under. I didn't move. Not when my arms went numb. Not when my back ached. Not when dawn crept through the windows. Because somewhere in the quiet, broken space between us, revenge finally let go. And something far more dangerous took its place. Love is a dangerous word. I avoided it for years, dressed it up as bitterness, survival, revenge, anything but what it really was. But once it starts surfacing, it doesn't ask permission. It just bleeds through the cracks. Brad woke up that morning disoriented, his head still resting against my shoulder. For a split second, before memory returned to his eyes, he looked peaceful. Then reality slammed back into place. He stiffened. "You should have left." "And let you tear yourself apart on the floor?" I asked quietly. He pushed himself upright with effort, shame flooding his scent. "You don't owe me this." "I know," I said again. The words were becoming a refrain. "Stop saying it like that will make me disappear." He didn't answer. I stood slowly, joints aching, and offered him my hand. He hesitated, then took it. That hesitation hurt more than his rejection ever did. The news broke that afternoon. A leak. Medical records. Speculation. Headlines that danced around the truth without ever naming it. CEO Alpha's declining health raises questions about leadership stability. Brad stared at the screen in silence. "They'll force you out," I said. "Yes," he replied. No denial. No fight. "And the contract?" I asked. He looked at me then. Really looked. "You're free to walk away." There was the exit I'd been waiting for. The victory. My chest felt hollow. "And if I don't?" I asked. His throat bobbed. "Then I'll spend the rest of my life trying to be worthy of that choice." I turned away before he could see the truth on my face. Because I was already in too deep. We stopped pretending after that. Not about the bond. Not about the pull. Not about the way our wolves reacted whenever we were close, calmer, steadier, like they'd found something they'd been missing. But we still didn't touch. That was the line neither of us crossed. Until the night his wolf nearly broke free. It was violent this time. Terrifying. He slammed into the wall hard enough to crack plaster, a growl tearing from his throat that didn't sound human at all. I didn't think. I ran to him. "Brad," I shouted. "Brad, look at me." His eyes were silver again, feral and unfocused. His wolf was panicking. "Stay back," he snarled, body shaking. "I'll hurt you." "You won't," I said, even as fear crawled up my spine. "I trust you." The words cut through him like a blade. "I don't deserve that," he gasped. "Then earn it," I snapped, and grabbed his face. Skin to skin. Scent to scent. The connection hit us like lightning. My wolf surged forward with a sound that tore from my chest. A sob, a plea, a recognition I couldn't deny anymore. Brad dropped to his knees. So did I. His forehead pressed to mine, his breathing ragged. "You still want me," he whispered. I should have lied. "I never stopped," I admitted. The confession shattered something in him. In us. He didn't kiss me. Didn't mark me. He just wrapped his arms around me like I was the only thing holding him together. And maybe I was. "I rejected you because I was weak," he said hoarsely. "Because I didn't believe I deserved something real." I closed my eyes. "You destroyed me," I whispered. "And I still loved you through it." "I know," he said, voice breaking. "And I'll spend the rest of my life making that right. Even if you never forgive me." That was when I understood. Redemption wasn't about grand gestures. It was about staying. The board moved fast. Brad was given an ultimatum: step down quietly or be forced out publicly. He chose the first. The night before the announcement, we sat together on the balcony, city lights stretching endlessly below us. "I'm sorry," he said. "This isn't the life I promised you." I looked at him. "You didn't promise me anything," I said. "You offered me a contract." "And what do you want now?" he asked softly. The answer lived in my chest, aching and terrifying. "I want honesty," I said. "And time." He nodded. "You'll have both." I leaned my head against his shoulder. He froze. Then slowly, carefully, rested his cheek against my hair. No dominance. No claim. Just warmth. And hope.